welcome everyone to the 7th episode of A Slice is Coaching. I'm here tonight with my co-partner, Mr. Chris Talley, our head boys basketball coach. Chris, it's good to see you. And how's the shore doing, by the way?
Coach, thanks for logging on again tonight for our 7th episode. It's good. It's the best thing about our show. We can kind of do it from wherever we are. But I'm excited tonight because we have some of our local youth partners with the Springford Youth Basketball League, and they're going to help, brainstorm with us and give us some insight on what their roles are within the youth organization. And let's get it rolling, and let's start with some introductions. Marty, you want to start?
Great, thanks. And thanks for inviting us to participate. My name is Marty Magazzolo, and I'm the president of the Springford Youth Basketball League, and it's my pleasure to be here tonight as part of the roundtable.
Good evening, guys. My name is Chris Yawn. I am the rec director of the league. This is my 4th year as rec director.
How's everybody doing? I hope you're ready to start your second summer vacation. My name is Kevin Chrisman. I am the travel director with Springford Youth Basketball.
Hey guys, nice to be with you. My name is Megan Westcott, and I'm the vice president of Springford Youth Basketball.
Chris, that's an awesome lineup, isn't it?
Yeah, we do appreciate everybody taking time out of your busy days to join us, and this is the brains behind the great youth organization that we have of Springford Youth Basketball. So thank you again.
I think before we get started, one thing the 4 of you should know is both Chris and I talk a lot about the youth league to our counterparts, not just in the league, but when we travel, we talk about the youth league and the fantastic job you do, and the number of young people playing in the league, and the passion for basketball. So you actually travel with us no matter where we go. Florida, Arizona, San Diego, wherever it may be, we talk about our youth group. So we really thank you for all you do, and everyone in the organization and all the volunteers. So, and you're all volunteers, I understand that.
Coach,
so thank you.
You forgot about that girls' trip to the Bahamas.
Yes, well, yeah, okay. We didn't want to bring that up. It was a great trip.
Gotta mention that one.
Yeah, we'd like to go back there someday. So, but why don't we start off, and Marty, I'm going to ask you, get it rolling, ask you a question, and we'll get flying from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Well, you preside over this awesome youth league and its board of directors. And it's no small task. We do recognize that. And probably when we look at it, it's about running a very large business, except you volunteer for this. You don't get paid a cent as everyone else here. You volunteer for this. So what was your motivation for taking on this responsibility?
Fantastic question. And you're absolutely right. I mean, even besides the passion that we all have for the league and where we want to take it, it really is about running the right set of fundamentals in order to meet some core things: a mission, a vision, being able to have strategic plans and strive for operational excellence, and making sure that you're providing the right level of member services in order to fulfill on the mission and vision. And these are really the building blocks that we focus in on. I have to say that the Springford Youth Basketball League has a fantastic heritage. And like many small businesses, it started with a dream, right? And it grows as it gets defined by the people who are involved. So it's really a culmination of all the volunteers that got it there. But in order for it to continue to grow, especially at the scale that we're at, we definitely have to make sure that we look after it like it is a business, but with a passion to support the members.
One thing I don't think many people realize what it takes to run an organization like this. And this is what we're hoping that they see tonight, is the depth of what it takes to organize, get everyone involved, and make it operate as smooth as possible. And what's the latest numbers we had last year in the league?
We had 1,600 kids.
1,600. We usually tell everybody 1,400 when we're traveling. 800 boys, 600 girls, so we'll have to up it now to 1,600. But that takes a tremendous amount of planning and organizing, and I don't think people understand that. And so we thank you for that, because we know it's no easy task. And Chris and I have 20-some players each, and you know, that's a lot to organize as well. So, you know, after one full year, Marty, of it under your belt, what can you say about the direction of the league, where it's gone, and how your goals got you to that point?
So I feel very confident that we as a board are on the right path for living up to the dream that I mentioned. You've heard the reasons why I got involved about 13 years ago. It was really around a passion for helping kids. Many people call it a soft spot that I have, and helping kids develop and grow. And for me, the biggest satisfaction is when you're going down to, you know, at the local supermarket or store, and you hear somebody say, "Hey, Coach," or "Hey, Mr. Magazzolo," and you know you've made an impact. And those fundamental components is really about where we're going. So our goal is really to help develop and grow these kids and give them an opportunity to develop through athleticism and community outreach. And we've established some very critical programs for the kids. We have a player development program that focuses on being able to provide an opportunity outside of the normal practice and game times for them to further develop their skills on a personal level. We've also embraced a community outreach program to help them focus in on learning how to participate in giving back to the community. And we've also applied energy and time to help engage the school more proactively with roundtables like this and the slice of coaching that we're putting together. We feel that that community is very important to build upon. So that's what, you know, what we've done so far. Looking forward, you know, we really like to do it into two categories: strategic and operational type of things. From a strategic perspective, we're looking for the right investment areas. How do we continue to manage the growth of the organization? What do gyms look like? Do we need to find and acquire our own gym capacity? What other opportunities are there for these kids outside of the regular season? How do we promote their interest to go further outside of what we have to offer? But also operationally, being able to sort of lift up the website and the communications that we have online, social media, and even some operational things as simple as how do we put a doorbell on some of these gyms to allow people to be able to get in and out of them, which are things that we're tackling all the time. But I have to say, directionally, we're very proud and happy of where we're going. I think we have the right vision and strategy. And the foundational mantra of "Together we are one" is the foundation of what we continue to drive.
And if people don't think this is like a large business after that explanation, they have another thing coming. You know, and the one thing is, you know, you said we're in a grocery store. Doesn't that just make you feel so proud? And to any of you, when someone comes up to you and says, "Thank you for running this league," whether it be one of the players or a parent or a grandparent, whatever it may be, and then you kind of say that kind of puts it on perspective and you realize, hey, what we're doing is a good thing here.
Absolutely, because I think like many of us, we started first with getting involved with our children's interest and maybe giving an opportunity to give back to the community. But over time, it changed. As your remit then turns into teams and divisions and a league, and then you see what impact you have on these children and being able to help them develop and grow. To me, it's it's a passion I have, and it's very fulfilling, and I'm sure the other board members would echo the same. And so being able to see them, you know, maybe at one point looking down at them at an earlier age, and then, you know, once they're at the high school level, they're looking you eye to eye, and it becomes such a proud moment to be able to see that that generation grow through that.
Yeah, an awesome feeling. Hey, Marty, we know that under the Springford Youth Basketball, you have two different basketball groups, a recreational program and a travel program. Can you tell our listeners and audience a little bit about each?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically at the core, both programs are very similar. It's really about balancing sport, learning, and having fun, right? Where the core of it really is around having fun, enjoying the sport and how to grow with it. But the primary difference, though, is that in travel, there's an expectation of a bit higher level of competition and skill required to compete out there. So it takes the proudness of Springford, the Springford name and logo, and takes it out on the road and allows us to be a bit more competitive and engaging with other regional areas. That's really the fundamental difference. But in all, we try to focus in on the child development, team development aspects across the board. And I'm sure the other board members will echo the same when they have an opportunity.
Well, I enjoy coming to games of both when I get a chance, when our schedule permits. And so, you know, I want to thank you for a little bit of insight there. Coach Talley, I'm going to let you ask the next board member some questions. How's that?
Sounds good. Megan, you're next. I'm coming
Hi,
for you
Coach.
here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What is your motivation behind getting involved with our youth basketball league?
Well, I am the lucky winner of 4 kids and 2 sets of twins less than 2 years apart. And I'm lucky that they're all very athletic. So from their very early childhood, we have been coaches in our family, my husband and I. And basketball included, we've always loved to do things for the kids. And I remember volunteering at the President's Day tournament probably 4 or 5 years ago. Roland got me sucked in to do scheduling, and it was that moment that the light bulb went off and I knew I could help more. And everything I do, and there's a lot of hours that we designate to my job, is always for the kids. I just try to make it a great environment, make sure their games happen with little conflict, and make sure they're having fun. So it's for the kids.
Thank you. So from my understanding of your job title, you're kind of like the Swiss Army knife of the operation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I touch a lot of the different, heads, including, Marty, Chris, and Kevin. So I primarily do with the operations. So I'm the primary contact to Springford schools. So I got to tell you, I talk to them multiple times a day when the season is going on. So I am the first call on a snow day or early dismissal. I'm also the first call on blackouts and the first call when things don't go right as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I help with organizing practice times and rec gym space for games. So I definitely overlap the recreation and the travel groups.
Okay. And scheduling, that's still a big part of your repertoire, right?
Yeah, the number, because I finally added it up, was 1,102 games we played from mid-November until mid-March. 1,102 games for all of our travel and rec program, not including the 168 we did over President's Weekend.
Wow.
So if you think about what is a game, it's getting the space, it's making sure there's referees that show up, it's making sure that there's overlap for cars to come and go, it's making sure you account for things like blackouts, or that a boys senior team can't play in an 8th grade center, or that it's Super Bowl Sunday and games have to end at 4 o'clock. So all of that goes into the whole schedule, which is basically a massive Excel spreadsheet. And that's really what I spend most of my hours doing.
If you had to quantify on the amount of hours you put into scheduling, what's your best guess for one season?
Oh my gosh, I will tell you, there are weeks where I put 30 hours to 40 hours in on top of my 40-hour job. I mean, it's just nonstop. That snow day in January where we got an inch, that was an easy 20 hours of work because they closed all the gyms and I had to reschedule all the basketball games. So, it comes and it goes. I will tell you, the beginning is hard until you get the schedules done. And keep in mind, for travel, I'm at the mercy of the ICBA telling me who needs home games. So I have to wait for travel to happen before I can get rec involved. And there's just a lot of variables that go into the schedule.
All right. That I think that's important for people to realize, like how much time you actually put in. There's a lot of people that they don't work 30 hours a week in their regular job. And,
Yeah.
and that's impressive that you're able to pull it off. I was going to ask you what you think your biggest challenge is, but I think you've already touched on that. And, we definitely appreciate giving us some insight on the scheduling here. Nick, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Chris. Now for the other Chris tonight. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
All right, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Little story, my daughter went to school with his sister at Shippensburg and played sports together. So we go way back, but we didn't know who we were way back. But Chris, you oversee the recreational side, correct?
I do.
Okay. What goes into making that division so successful? What does it take from your end to do that?
I guess I'll start with last year we had 148 teams, and they range anywhere. The kids are from 1st grade up to 12th. On the boys' side, we have 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade all have separate divisions. 5th and 6th are together, 7th and 8th are together, and then 9 through 12 are a division. On the girls' side, it's groups of 2 where it's 1st and 2nd grade together, 3rd and 4th grade together, 5th and 6th grade together, 7th and 8th, 9 through 12. And so part of what it takes is I have some great commissioners who work to help me out. That's kind of one of my first main jobs early in the season, is finding commissioners to help me with each one of those divisions. And then each of those divisions, we have maximum 10 players on a team, and they could range from either 6 teams in a division up to 28 is what we had in the boys senior division.
Question, I know we've heard different, all the same positive, but the 9 through 12 program has become a very successful program. Am I right?
It has.
And it was designed for those 9 through 12 that either didn't want to play high school basketball or may have went out for high school basketball and didn't make the team. So you gave them a place to play. How is that? How have you felt about that? How's the whole league felt about that? To be able to see that many young people doing something positive. In other words, when they had something to do.
So that's one of my favorite things about the league, is really the camaraderie in that division. They have their own Twitter page where they post scores. They have of every game. And we have a player rep that does that from the high school. They post the scores. They have high scores. Sometimes there's a little blurb about whether it was a blowout, a close game, overtime, who hit the winning shot. I think a year or two ago, they had a live feed on the championship game. So you can tell how much those kids appreciate that division. If you go watch a game, you'll see not just the players and their parents, but you'll see a lot of other kids in the stands cheering them on, or maybe heckling a little bit.
I have gone to some of the 9 through 12 games, and I thought it was great. It was just awesome. Because in our job with Chris and I, the worst thing that we do not like, or the worst thing we don't like, is that we have to cut kids, to use that term. It's a tough thing to do. Anybody thinks it's easy, it's not.
Yeah.
We see those young boys or young girls every day, in our buildings. So it's a tough thing. So when I saw that opportunity and see how many are involved, makes me feel really good. And I'm really proud of you and the organization doing that. So thank you. So, all the years you've been doing this, Chris, and think about all that you've seen and done. And this may be a tough question, but what's one of the most proudest you are about the program? What one thing or two things are you most proud about the program?
Well, I guess the things that first come to mind, they're not things that I started, but the things that come to mind are the clinics early in the year, to see the first and second grade kids out there with the high school kids and see how much they look up to them. I enjoyed that. And like I said, with the championship game, seeing other kids come out to watch their friends, those are the things that I could tell they enjoy it. The way, as a coach, what I tell my players early in the year is, I'm going to help teach them the game of basketball, but I want them to enjoy it. My main goal is I want them to come back the next year. And so as our numbers go up, that makes me happy. I'm proud that the numbers are going up. It means that people like the league.
I believe I speak for both Chris and I. Love those clinics that we do for the first and second graders. And what makes us so proud, again, is watching our young people interact and seeing. Listen, we know one thing. When we do clinics, they don't want to hear anything from us old people. They want to hear from the girls, because that's who their role models are. So we really appreciate the opportunity to do those clinics. Chris, I'm going to turn it over. This next person, I believe, is a stretch 4, because you have to be the 4th one.
Yeah.
So he's a stretch 4 in the lineup.
Yeah.
And he's got a nice shirt on there, too.
He's the do-it-all board member here. Kevin, you've been a part of Springford Youth Basketball for quite some time. What was your motivation in getting involved, and how many years have you been involved?
So I've been involved since 2008. Started out with the girls rec division with my oldest daughter, and one of Mickey's alum, my niece Rachel, coached the two of them in fourth grade. And my motivation was simple. I mean, when you see a winning organization, you just want to be a part of it. And I could tell from the start that Springford basketball was doing a lot of things right, and you just wanted to be a part of that. You want to be a part of these these kids' memories. You help them build memories. I mean, I still have friends that we talk about our times in youth basketball and youth baseball all the time. I just happened to stumble in last night. Excuse me, I didn't stumble in, I walked in. But I stumbled upon my son and a bunch of his Springford classmates, and they're all back from college and they're all hanging out, and they were playing basketball and hanging out in the backyard here, and I overheard them, and 3 or 4 of them were talking about their favorite season of Springford rec basketball, and how one was like, no, sophomore year was the best, and no, it was senior year, and AK was the year I hurt my ankle, we would have won it all. And that's what it's all about. That's really what it's all about. And you just strive to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And they might not realize it when it's happening, which is the cool thing, but at some point, when they're out of college and all that, they realize and look back. I tell it all the time. My best friends in this world and everybody that was in my wedding, I played either Little League baseball with or high school basketball with. And, you look back and you wouldn't change any of that for anything.
Absolutely.
So the travel side is a little bit different than the rec side, where you have to try out and you have to make the team. That's difficult, especially when you're talking 3rd and 4th graders. Talk to us a little bit about that process where, unlike rec, not everybody makes the team.
Yep. So the tryout process is an arduous task. I mean, we start early trying to identify the most skilled and or neutral talent evaluators that we can, and the board reviews them, and we talk about them, and we go through placement of what evaluators can be in which groups. Obviously, this year we made a change where we've kind of removed the head coach from the tryout process, only from a perspective of we want to make sure that the kids have the feeling that they have a fair and equal chance. That's the ultimate goal of the tryout process, is to make it highly competitive and highly fair as much as we possibly can. And when a volunteer organization, you would be surprised how hard that is to just come up with. I mean, we have 16 different teams that we field. Sometimes it's been up to as many as 18 teams. So we have 300 to 400 kids trying out for these teams, and we want to make sure they all get a good solid look, and we want to make sure that the evaluators, and there's good dialogue around kids. I mean, it should not be an easy task, and it has not been in the past.
Yeah, that a little insight. I was pumped you asked me to help you this year with the I think it was 4th grade boys, and at first I was a little bit leery, but at that point in my life I had all daughters and no skin in the game, so I was loving that you asked me. We had a lot of fun, and Kevin kind of had to rein me in a little bit because I was lining them up by height and taking the top 10 tallest guys and then starting from there. But Kevin did a great job of organizing it, and that was cool to be part of that process because I never really saw that end of the thing. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and Chris, you can attest to the fact that I was in 2 tryouts, and man, you can just, these kids are giving everything they possibly have in those tryouts. I mean, it is just evident that they love the game, they love being a part of the organization, and they really want to make the team to mostly they want to impress their friends. I mean, they're competing with each other. They see these kids every day, all day, and it's good to see.
So unlike the rec, where it's like an in-house league, the Springford Youth Basketball is part of the ICBA. Talk about the ICBA a little bit, what it is, and where do we rank in the ICBA from a program?
Okay, so ICBA is the Inter-County Basketball Association. It was started back in 2009 by 2 great gentlemen who have been running it ever since. It's really grown. It's gone from 28 divisions when they first started, I think, up to about 45 divisions now they have.
Wow.
But all the way through 8th grade. Some grade levels have as many as 4 divisions worth of teams. So it's a huge success. It's very competitive. 99% of the people that are involved are great people, good coaches. There's very little problems. It's a well-run organization. So we've been lucky enough to be a part of the ICBA since its inception. We are probably one of the largest, top 5, I would say, in terms of members, with the amount of teams that we put in on a yearly basis. How do we stack up? I mean, we're extremely competitive every year. This year in particular, we had 7 teams out of 16 make the finals. We had 2 that were successful and actually brought home the championship. And you know, so we're very competitive, and we're fortunate, I guess, in a way, to have a close backyard rival in PV who's equally as large and equally as successful, I would say. So that helped push them, even though we get tired of playing PV 8 times a game, 8 times a year, whatever it is. But they're good. They keep us sharp.
Yep, it's good to have a local rivalry, especially with parents. It's tough driving down the Charger Nation and Ben Salem all the time. So anytime we're playing PV Middle School South, I'm in.
Yeah,
All
so it's the best when we have a championship game. It's Springford versus PV, and we got to drive all the way out to Ben Salem to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last question for you. So you mentioned we do have some success within the ICBA, both on the girls and the boys side. Do you have some initiatives or some core values or some, like, what drives that? How do you feel that we got there?
So, good question. We have, 5 really true initiatives that I like to promote. And it basically is player development, and coaching development. Like, we want master coaching. Again, it's a volunteer organization, so we do the best we can. We get good coaches that have, their mind in the right place, and coaches need to be coachable as well. I mean, you guys can probably definitely attest to that. You're always learning. And so we try and shy away from coaches that want to come in and just kind of implement their program. Not that it's not a good program, but we're in this for the good of the entire Springford travel program. And so we implement certain things that we like to see, because it's about player development first. So player development, master coaching, high level competition, which ICBA is gives us that vehicle. We also like to really teach good, strong team building activities. So we promote a lot of activities outside of the day-to-day basketball. We have teams that travel down to the Sixers games or Villanova games. Last year, we had a coach take his team over to an Ursinus men's game, and they got to go in the locker room afterwards and kind of interact there. So we really try to promote that. I think that really is one of the core concepts of what we do. Is it's a team. It's a team. You're going to be with these teammates for years to come, either as friends or teammates. Make memories while you're at this. Don't make it all about work. There's a lot of camaraderie that needs to come from this. So we want the coaches to promote that as much as anything on the court. And then last but not least is the program first philosophy. So we're not going to stretch any type of rules or favors for any one player. We're in it for the program. We want a program first philosophy. And so those are the 5 initiatives that we work hardest on.
Thank you.
Yep.
Coach, I think that's kind of wraps up all the questions that we wanted. Are you ready to turn it over to them?
Yeah, one thing I do want to say to the panel here is when Chris and I got together and we formed a Slice of Coaching, we committed to doing this year round. Even during our seasons. In fact, this kind of, I don't know if we'll do it always in this format, even though we're back in school. But I'm sure I'm speaking for you, Chris, and you're all right with that. Love to have you back on as you're getting ready for your season or tryouts to kick off, and you maybe use that as a marketing piece as well, but to kind of get people excited. Not to, you need to get more excited with 1,600, young people, but just to get Springford youth basketball out in the front again. So if you'll, let us know down the road, we'll talk to you. We'd love to do it again, have a different set of questions in the preparation of your season. So, Marty, I'll lean to you right now, and whoever wants to ask, if you want to ask us questions, feel free to do, and we'll do our best to answer.
Absolutely appreciate it. Before we ask a couple questions, I just want to, since you were referring to going back to school and the season coming back up again, just want to let the audience and the members know that we are looking forward and planning for the season to start up again in August. We have a registration that's going to open up and it'll allow people to register. We're not going to collect any fees until we get a final disposition from the school and the governor as to the approach for gameplay and sportsmanship in the state and the use of facilities. But since you were mentioning about going back to school, I felt it was a good opportunity to let the members know we are actively already thinking about the fall and getting ready for it. So with that said, Mickey and Chris, I know that, and we know that when you were kids, much like us, we were probably spending a lot of time playing pickup games with some of our friends. And nowadays, it's really, a lot of it is transformed in the direction of organized sports, like organized leagues like ourselves or AAU. And we're curious to get your perspective on, how has this changed the game and the athletics that are part of the part of the teams that you're coaching?
Chris, you want or you want me to take it?
Go ahead, man.
Okay. Well, first of all, just to kind of give him my background, because I'm probably the oldest on this panel here. We didn't have really organized leagues back then. And basketball camps were, although in 8th grade I went to my first basketball camp, and so they wasn't really a big thing at the point. But we would go and play pickup games down at Roarsford Elementary on the court that was there, and also down the street from me, the Blackburn family had a garage that was kind of like a barn, but a garage with a roof over, and we put a basket right up against the wall there in front of one of the wooden doors, and right at the basket, maybe about 4 feet over, the wall jutted out about 4 feet and then went down. So it was tight quarters in there. So what you learned playing that way was you got to play with different people all the time. There was no fouls called. We would get, and when we played underneath the barn, underneath the roof, you could like almost hockey. You could check people into the wall within reason. They were obstacles you had to get around. So we weren't beneficial of that type organization. And you had, within what we were doing, you had to learn to survive. You had to be tough. You had to be mentally tough. You couldn't take your ball and go home, or else that was trouble with your status within the block, where we had 52 kids on our block on both sides of the street. So, that I think was the difference was, one, we played with different people. 2, there was no referees. And 3, it was truly playground basketball. So, which I sometimes think is a missing ingredient. You can see certain, whether it's boys or whether it's girls who play on the playground and the skills they develop. And not just the skills, but the insight of the game.
Right.
And I think that's one of the differences I think that playing that type basketball helped, was that the nuances of the game. Yeah. Now they do get to play a ton of games in AAU and travel as well. So that's a good thing about that respect. But we were every day in a pickup.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And it sounds like a combination of the diversity in the team and the kids that you played with, plus better awareness and having court IQ was a combination of what you've experienced. And I think that could help us really then understand what types of things should we be doing to help prepare the young athletes as they get ready to want to be in a competitive situation at the high school level. What types of things would you advise us to prepare our children with?
Chris, you want to go or you want?
Go ahead.
Well, I think one of the first things that I think is important is they got to have fun. They got to have fun at what they're doing. If they're having fun, then you try to develop to see if there is a love or the passion for the game. And where most people maybe get lost is in the beginning when it's not fun for them. And we're cognizant of that at our level as well. And then you can develop the skill and then and play. But I think if someone realizes that basketball can have some fun, and I don't mean goofing off fun, but the fun of succeeding, the fun of working with your teammates, some of those attributes you're developing, having a passion, intensity, commitment, perseverance, all leads to having some fun, and then that leads to developing that love or passion for the game. When you have that, to me, you're going to do anything to learn the skills and work to become the best basketball player you can. And I know Chris and I could name some players. We're not going to do that who have that over the years that we've coached or so forth. But that's what I think. That's from a simplistic mind like mine.
Great. Excellent. Well, we appreciate that insight and that coaching and guidance. I know some of the other board members have some additional questions, so I'll pass it on to Kevin, who has some more questions for the roundtable.
Yeah. So, hey guys, this is for both of you, really. I mean, because it's valuable for both teams, and it comes down to we think we're doing the right thing, and we're doing a lot of steering of these young athletes. But to hear it from you, I think would be very beneficial. So, what are some of the key attributes that you are looking for in your players as they come up to the high school level?
Yeah, great question, Kevin. And I think I have the most simplistic answer to that question. And you and I have talked about this, for a couple of years now. And to me, it's easy. We want kids that are able to dribble, pass, and shoot. And everybody thinks like, oh, like that sounds so elementary and so basic, and it is. But the reality is, I don't think people really understand how good you have to be to play at a high school like Springford that has 680 graduating seniors. So when I say dribble, pass, and shoot, you have to dribble, pass, and shoot a lot better than a lot of kids than most schools do. So I think, the younger athletes right now, I think the NBA has kind of, I don't want to say hurt the game, but everybody wants to be Steph Curry. And they want to come out and shoot the three. And he makes it look easy, but I don't think they understand how hard he's worked to get to that point. So for me, it's dribble, pass, and shoot, but you need to be elite at all three of them. We've had, I think I forget how many years I've been coached. Like we started at the same time. How many years have we completed?
7.
So in those 7 years, we've had, some multi-sport athletes and kids that are super athletic, but they don't dribble, pass, and shoot as well as some of the more skilled kids. And it's one of those things where basketball, especially high school basketball, has kind of evolved into, if you're not doing it 10 months out of the year, you're kind of behind. Where I sound like my dad, where back in the olden days, everybody played all sports, and you don't really see that too much this year with this time anymore with the specialization in sports. But like for you to really be able to play at that level and compete, because there's 5 guys on that court at all times, and you really have to hone in on those fundamentals, but you have to practice that throughout the year. It's really tough anymore to show up in November and get on that court.
Yeah, I agree with Chris 100%. 2 things that I'll say, and where you start that development is up to you. 2 areas we felt, and we do a lot of work with this, in the game that needs to be improved is 3 things: layups, mid-range jump shots, and free throws. There are 3 areas that can easily win you games, at the same time easily lose you games if you're not successful. Now, understand what first, second, third, it's a little bit different there. But as they get older, there are 3 areas that we've worked on, and we work on with our girls, consistently in practice. And all of our shooting drills, or certain drills we're doing one-on-one, they got to get to a mid-range, they got to get to a layup, and then we have a lot of free throw drills. And if you saw Abby Boyer last week, she showed you one of those drills we do called 3-2-1. Yeah. So I would say somewhere within the sequence of their development, there are 3 areas I think are important to introduce to them.
Excellent.
Well, maybe not introduce layups, but that's part of
layups for sure. I mean, it's and these are things that we're focused on as a league. Is we're trying to get away from too much of the game planning and focus a little bit more on the future planning of these young athletes. So that's where we are. So as a follow-up to that, just so if you had to say, hey, if you come to Spring Forward varsity, girls, men's team, you better know how to do this one thing because it's a staple of what we do. Is there one thing that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'll say it's work hard. We have, everybody always makes fun of us. We have a bunch of assistant coaches, and they're always like, you have more assistant coaches than players sometimes. And I think the one thing that's consistent in the core values of all of us is that work ethic. We always use the term, like, you got to be a gym rat. And if you want to play, you want to compete, and you want to be successful, it's not easy. And you got to be willing to put in that work because, oftentimes, like, everybody wants that success and they want a championship, but then when it's time to work, it's not always followed through. So for us, it's just, put the phones down, put the social media away, get in the gym, get a partner, and work.
Yeah, ours now, we kind of been known for defense over all these years, but
Yep.
realistically, we can't perform defensively unless we have the work ethic, and that's the core of the core values. If you can play defense if you're willing to work at it. You can play offense if you're willing to work at it and work hard and have a great work ethic. And the work ethic the practice is 90 minutes, work ethic isn't 60, it's 90.
Yeah.
The work ethic within stretching is important. Stretching is important to us, and you got to have a work ethic within that. There's a work ethic in the film room when you're watching film, breaking it down and understanding what we need to do or what you need to do or whatever. So whatever we see on the film. So it's work ethic. I 100% agree with Chris. One of our mantras has been relentless. We just want to be relentless. Again, you can't be relentless unless you have a work ethic.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Last one for me, and I'll flip it to Chris. So, everybody, like I said early on, everybody really wants to be a part of a winning organization, and we take a lot of pride in how you guys perform. I mean, we feel like we've had something to do with that, and so that's the question. What does having a youth sports program like Spring Forward Youth enable you as coaches to do?
Yeah, I'll take this one, Mick. I remember it was years ago when we won a big game or something. The paper asked us, something about, like, how have you been successful? And the first thing that came to mind was it's our youth program. We can coach and do all this, but the reality is you're only as good as your players are. And when they come to us at the middle school program in the 9th grade and the JV, the kids that come are very skilled and very prepared. And that's a reflection of the hard work that you guys have put into place with hiring qualified coaches. Like you said, Kevin, it's not just, there are certain scenarios where there's a dad that's coaching a team, but he's probably qualified. But there's plenty of coaches where they have, an independent coach, and it's because you guys felt that person was the best fit for that job. So it's almost like you guys funnel it to us, and, we couldn't be more grateful for that.
That's great to hear.
Excellent.
Did you want me to
Nick,
go?
any follow?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, one thing that's beneficial is the numbers, that you produce. But but your commitment to developing basketball players and developing young people really is a big part of our success. Don't ever underestimate that. We recognize where our roots are. We recognize where those roots are and what's grown, what that foundation is. And when you look at our programs and look at our rosters, I mean, you see the bevy of youth basketball players. And so you help us in many ways, and it's our job not to mess it up, but you really give us the opportunity to work with and develop young people even farther to another level. So, you know, Chris and I talk about the youth a lot. I don't think you'll ever know how much we appreciate all of you and what you do. And maybe we don't tell you enough, but I don't think you're people that take that to where you better tell me all the time. You're not. You're so humbled, and that's why you're so great in what you do, because you're humble. So,
Well, I must say I'm glad to hear you say that you feel like you don't want to mess it up, because I feel the pressure of us not wanting to mess it up for you. So
yeah.
we're equally accountable to each other.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I think you're probably like me. I look at myself in the mirror way too much, you know. So, but that's why that's my DNA, and that's the way I'm wired. So,
Not a bad thing.
Excellent. All right, Kev, well, thanks so much for your questions. I think, Chris, you have one or two questions you'd like to ask yourself from a rec perspective?
I just want to, Chris and Coach McDaniel, I think you guys both told us what it takes from the players. And I think lots of times people think that's a travel player. But what would you say to the rec kids, you know, who didn't make the travel team in fourth grade or fifth grade? Does making the travel team in fifth grade mean anything to you guys, or what would you tell them?
it would be to me, Jimmy Valvano. Never give up. You know, never give up on anything you want to approach, because you may not become a basketball player eventually, but what you learn from going after the basketball through rec and so forth may help you in your lacrosse career or your field hockey career, you know, or your softball career, as Megan's daughters. It may help you there, but you may become that basketball player. And it's, you know, I think if you leave it up to the young people, they want to keep pursuing and understand and try to get better. I mean, I'll give you two quick stories from my end. Hillary Tutrani played basketball for us in high school. Now, it wasn't youth basketball, but she got cut in 9th grade. And then Jeff Mass the following year, who was our 9th grade coach, came up, and we had tryouts, and we're like, wow. And I said, Massey, what were you looking at that you cut her? And she says, well, she's really improved. And she refused to give up the sport. Now, granted, she was a 9th grader going into 10th, but at tryouts, first one in the gym, picked up a basketball and worked, the last one to leave. And then when tryouts ended, she made the team. She was that way her 3 years, eventually became a varsity player, a varsity starter. Kirsten Landis got cut in her 7th grade basketball year. And it was devastating because it wasn't expected. Kirsten was part of that group with Haas, Moore, and all that were coming up through. And when she got cut, I remember talking to her, and I know John did a great job with it and told her, you got to stay with it, keep the dream alive. She was on our state championship team as a senior. If she gives that up, she doesn't get to experience that. And one final story is my own daughter. In 7th grade, she got cut from hockey, field hockey. Okay, I'm the AD. So you know there was no favors done. So she got in the car. I picked her up in front of the Washington Street building at the time. And I said, Cora, how'd you do? She goes, Dad, I got cut. I had that feeling. Heart sunk to the feet or to my toes. She said, Dad. And I looked over at her and she said, it's okay. I know what I need to do about it the next year. She goes on, becomes our MVP in high school, and gets a dual scholarship to Shippensburg in hockey and lacrosse, the max you could get in each sport. And if I would have intervened with her and told her that was rotten, they didn't know what they were doing, maybe she doesn't pursue it. Maybe I killed her dream at that time. But she kept it alive. A 12-year-old had that perception to tell me and look me right in the eyes. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. So that's just 3 stories of, you know, again, not in the youth, but they never gave up and found their way in something. And, you know, so that's success. When you find your way in something, whether you're an all-star or not, that's still successful.
That's great. Chris, did you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Travel A team, travel B team, rec, CYO. work your driveway. I don't care where you play. You know, that means nothing to us. If you're good, you're going to make the team. If you work hard, you're going to make the team. And you know, we've had similar stories that Coach McDaniel's had where there's kids that, you know, have been cut in middle school and travel teams and, you know, the whole nine that come and flourish. Austin Hokinson is one that comes to mind, and he's had as much success at the high school level as anyone as I've coached, and he's gotten cut by everybody. But I think the one thing that I would say that sticks out to my mind, and Mickey will remember Ted Nypover. I never played for him, but he was a middle school coach, a legendary middle school basketball coach. What grade did he coach? 7th or 8th grade? One of those?
7th, coach.
7th. And, you know, I just remember him saying, you know, you guys think you're hot shots and you 5 that are starting. He's like, right now, you guys are in 7th grade. Take a look at that high school basketball team, right? On that court right now, the starting 5, there will be one of them that started for this 7th grade team. If there's 2, that would be a lot. And, you know, we're in 7th grade and you're what, 12, 13 years old, and you're thinking, nah, like, I'm going to go, I'm going to be the start, you know, all that. And he is so right. And that is still true to this day. And every time when we have the clinics and at our camps, however I can spread that message, I get that opportunity to spread, I do, because there is so much that changes from when you're in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade by the time you get to your senior year. So, you know, just because you get cut, it doesn't mean you're not a good basketball player or you're not going to turn into a good basketball player.
You know, one thing I'd like to add, not to lengthen it, but the one thing, what's really important at your level, and as is our level, is coach the player. You know, there are different levels of player within a team. And if we keep focusing on these 5 or these 4 or these 3, we're going to lose these people, these players down here. When I say down here, I mean it might not be in the upper rotation. When you look at it realistically, and I look at the teams we've coached over time, and I'm sure Chris does the same, these people, you know, if you got your rotation of 6 and you have 12 on your roster, these 6 that maybe aren't in the main rotation, don't underestimate the power they have to make that team successful. But that has to start with the coaching and how they're indoctrinated into the team and how they're important. You can't confuse. You got to be straightforward with them if they're not as good of a player as someone else. But they need to be hey, we can do this. You're just as important to this team as anyone else. And you guys know the right words to say. But I think that, you know, you talk about, I've been on about 30 basketball webinars during the pandemic. I'm on every Thursday night with Dr. Greg Dale from Duke, who's the mental coach down there. So that's Thursday night at 9. And I was on with Matt Rule from the coach of the Jets on an hour. And they talked about that. They were hitting home about those players. If you coach your top 5, you're not going to be successful. But if you coach your top 10, 12, whatever you have on the roster, that's when success will happen for you. And you're hearing that from major college coaches. And you're hearing it from Matt Rule, who coaches in the NFL now. And I'm hearing that from Greg, who's been the mental coach for all the Duke teams. So it's just been powerful.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the perspective you've given us really gives us an opportunity to be able to help coach and guide some of these kids. And I can't help to think about the fundamental theme that I'm hearing here is it's really around the passion that the individual person has for whatever sport's important for them and their personal commitment to excel. And I can tell you, even from my days when I was a commissioner of the senior boys in Rec-Side, there was a coin that they phrased, rec ball is life. And some of these kids had a passion for even just exploring that and having a great time, and really strong athletes that just wanted to be able to have fun and play at the rec level. So for us, that's part of our commitment to our members, is to be able to provide a channel not only for the people who aspire to go to the school sports and school level and competitive side, but also the rec side and follow their passion and the love for basketball. And so I want to thank both you, Mickey and Chris, for helping us create this forum and giving us an opportunity to have this dialogue. That's all the questions that we had.
Well, it's been awesome. We have to do it again. You know, maybe we need, it'll be great if we can get around truly a round table and do it, you know, in our studio, TV studio or somewhere. And, but I hope we can make this an ongoing episode in our show somewhere down the road, a couple times a year. And, you know, Chris, do you want to close us out?
Yeah, I echo everything Coach has said. It's been fun, and you know, we appreciate your guys' time. And I think that's going to conclude episode 7, Coach. And we'll see you guys next time on A Slice of Coaching.